Welcome back to another installment of Everything NHL. I'm your host, Nathan, and we're here with our hockey expert, James Kumar.
Hey, what's up, man?
So, so this week we're gonna go over Thursday and Friday's playoff games. We'll talk a little bit about how round three went. We'll preview the Stanley Cup Finals, and then we'll preview Monday's game.
All right, sounds good. Let's get into it.
All right, so I guess we can start with Thursday's game. Vegas versus Montreal. Big game by the Montreal Canadiens. They were able to clutch out a win in overtime to advance to the Stanley Cup Finals. Shea Weber for Montreal in the first period and Riley Smith for Vegas. And in the second period, Cole Caulfield for Montreal. In the third period, Alec Martinez for Vegas. And then in overtime, Arturi Lehkonen for Montreal. And I guess we can say that the fortress has fallen in Vegas. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I know. I think when I predicted, I said like Vegas in six or something like that. Like it ended up being 6 games, but it was totally opposite from anything that I thought. Vegas just didn't look good in this series. They just, especially in this game, like even though they tied it, like you could kind of feel like that it was in Montreal and Montreal kind of really wanted it more. And I feel like that's what pretty much told all of Montreal's wins in this series, and I guess just told the entire series that Montreal was clearly the team that they really wanted to win more.
Yeah, I remember last week we were talking about how um, Vegas, they can basically play any style of hockey that they want. If you want to play defensive, they can be defensive. If you want to play offensive, they can play offensive. So kind it's kind of really hard to find a way to just outright beat them and take advantage of their roster. But that being said, Montreal found a way to do that. So I guess, how do you think they managed to do that?
Yeah, it was just I guess just them limiting all the chances from Vegas. And I mean, I guess just Carey Price being like his normal good self in the playoffs, like just making key saves, and then Montreal would sort of get chances off of that, and they were able to score on them.
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of like turning their defense into offense kind of thing.
Yeah, fast breaks. So that's usually how they capitalize. They play a tight defensive style. They don't usually allow a lot of chances. I know Vegas is a good team. They were able to tie up this game, but then once it got to overtime, Vegas was trying. I think there was a shot from Petrangelo. I think Pacioretty even had one in overtime there, and like right after Price saved it, then Montreal just went the other way, and you can kind of feel like, okay, this team's really going to try and get it, and then they were able to get it. They had some good passes there, and then they finished it.
Yeah, I guess with this, I guess we could say that Montreal's probably the best defensive team in the entire league if they can beat a team like Vegas.
Well, I mean, they shut down some better offensive teams like Toronto, Winnipeg, Vegas, but pretty much the best offensive team is going to be coming up for them next. We'll get into that when we get into next game. But yeah, they're going to have a really tough test once they get to the finals.
Yeah, speaking of tests, I guess going over Friday's game, which is today as of this recording, the Lightning were able to move on to the Stanley Cup Finals. This was a really tough series. It went to 7 games, but Tampa Bay was able to come out on top. This was a really low-scoring game. Yanni Gourde in the second period for Tampa Bay Lightning. The Islanders are also a really strong defensive team, but Tampa was able to find a way to put the puck in the net.
Well, I mean, I think Tampa Bay even proved that they're a very solid defensive team. Like they can play pretty much anything. Like they can win 1-0. They can win 8-0 like we saw in game 5. Like they can score goals, whether it's 1, then they won't allow any. Whether it's 8, they won't allow any. They're just such a good team at home, especially. even on the road, they were up 2-0. They did end up losing game 6, but ultimately just came back to win in game 7. And the series went a bit longer than we sort of expected. But yeah, Tampa Bay just really looked strong, especially in the home games.
Yeah, I believe last recording we were talking about how Tampa Bay is like Vegas but better, and they're even better than they were last year. So Montreal has really, I guess, a really tough task for them ahead.
Yeah, they're better and they're also deeper, I feel when one of their defensemen, Chernak, got hurt, they just put Luke Shen into the lineup and then he even scored that game. So like they can just sort of rotate guys in and out and then they'll just play equally as well as the others. So yeah, Montreal, I know they've dealt with some injuries and whatever, so maybe their depth has been a little bit shortened. I know it was pretty deep early in the playoffs, so they'll definitely have to deal with a really deep team in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess for New York, this was a pretty good run. They gave the defending champions a really hard fight, went to 7 games. Other really good teams, Tampa Bay beat them pretty handily, although I think Florida gave them a tough fight, but Tampa came out on top. Same with Carolina and now New York. So um, Tampa's in playoff form.
Yeah, I mean, we picked against the New York Islanders, I think, pretty much every series. And then the first two, both against Pittsburgh and Boston, they sort of proved us wrong. They proved that they were a better team than we thought. But then ultimately against Tampa Bay, defending champions, they just weren't able to get it done. They only had 18 shots in game 7. I think that just proves how good Tampa Bay was. I believe they blocked a whole leap of shots. I don't even know what the totals are on the blocks. Yeah, Tampa Bay had like 21 blocks. So if those were potential shots, the Islanders would have been over 30 for sure, maybe even close to 40. But yeah, Tampa Bay did a really good job playing defense in this game.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of crazy to think how good Tampa Bay is compared to even a division like the East, where there were just so many good teams. New York was a 70-win team. There are multiple 70-win teams in that division, and Tampa Bay was able to beat a team from that division.
Yeah, I think you mean 70 points, but yeah, I get what you're trying to say. Yeah, the East is by far the toughest division. And I think Tampa Bay proves that even though their division was a little bit easier, that they're still a good enough team to sort of match up with the teams from the East division, and that's important. Because Vegas clearly coming out of a little bit of an easier division by the looks of it now. They just really weren't able to match up with Montreal, who sort of had a tougher road going through teams like Toronto and Winnipeg. So yeah, I think it'll definitely be. It was definitely good for Tampa Bay playing a team like New York.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy to think about, I guess, how tough the East really is. And even with a team like Colorado, which I thought going into the playoffs, Colorado was going to be like the best offensive team potentially, mostly because of their pace. But Vegas was able to beat them, but Montreal was able to beat Vegas.
Yeah, I think it just sort of proved that the West Division, they had a lot of like bottom level teams, sort of like LA, Anaheim, San Jose, like Arizona wasn't as good either. So Colorado just sort of racked up a lot of points against them. I think Vegas was sort of the same way. That they really propped up their records and they looked really strong. But then when they went against teams from other divisions that had to play rough games almost every night, then they really proved that they really couldn't hang with a team like Montreal, or they weren't prepared. They might be good enough, but I guess the season didn't prepare them to play well against Montreal.
Yeah, I guess with conferences, it's always hard to tell which playoff team is actually that good, or did they just kind of inflate their wins a little bit by kind of picking on weaker teams. Although there are some strong teams in the West, like for example St. Louis, but I guess um, it was just kind of looking like Colorado was just that good until the playoffs hit.
Yeah, I mean, that was the issue with this season. There was no cross division play because of all the bubble situations with Canada and all that. So when you don't play outside your division for the entire season, it's really hard to tell where divisions stack up until you actually reach the final four, where teams were able to play outside their division. Like Montreal hadn't played Vegas all season, New York hadn't played Tampa Bay all season, and then Tampa Bay and Montreal are normally in the same division on any regular year, but then they were placed in different divisions because of the whole bubble thing. Like according to like geography, they were placed in different divisions, so they haven't played each other since like early 2020, I think. So yeah, it's going to be really tough to sort of judge who wins. But yeah, we'll get into it when we talk about our preview.
Yeah, I guess we might as well go into the preview of the Stanley Cup Finals. I guess we could talk about our general thoughts on how the playoffs have been going in general.
Yeah, I think starting with the Vegas and Montreal series, I know I talked about. I think both of us picked Vegas in six. It ended up being Montreal in six, so we got the games right. But ultimately, Montreal pretty much just got it done. They seemed like they were the better team. And then as for the Tampa Bay New York Islanders series, I think I took Tampa Bay in five. You took Tampa Bay in six. It ended up going to seven. So the Islanders did put up more of a fight than both of us anticipated. But yeah, ultimately, it's going to be Tampa Bay against Montreal in the finals.
Yeah, for sure. This was, I guess, a really interesting Stanley Cup playoffs. Like you said, the teams weren't really playing across different divisions, so it was kind of hard to predict who was gonna win exactly. There were a lot of really strong teams in, I guess, respect to each of their divisions.
Yeah, well, I mean, even talking about Montreal's run, like we know the Oilers sort of racked up a lot of points by beating like lower teams like Ottawa and stuff. Then when they got to the playoffs and they had to face the Jets seemed to be more of a team built to win in the playoffs, so they lost them. But then Montreal came through and beat the Jets. And I think Toronto, out of all the teams Montreal faced, ended up giving them the most trouble. Toronto was up 3-1. They were winning games like 4-1, 5-0, scores like that. They looked really dominant. And then things just sort of turned around and Montreal ended up taking the series. So I think it is possible that we could have seen Toronto maybe in this spot had they gotten through. But Montreal just sort of turned on the Jets and they really haven't released ever since. They just been like, uh, just continuing to just plow towards the finals, and here they are.
I guess what are your thoughts on Montreal being able to go so far when I don't think anybody outside of Montreal or Montreal fans in general would have been able to see something like this happening?
They seem to have good structure. They have good goaltending. Obviously, we talked about Carey Price. Um, and they just seem to be able to get key goals at the right time. I know even against Toronto, it's not like Toronto wasn't getting their chances. They just weren't able to get them through, whether it was the defensive structure, whether it was the goaltending. Then Montreal would get like a fast break the other way and they were able to score. Then against the Jets, they just really weren't able to generate any pressure whatsoever. The goals were just few and far between at that point. Montreal was just outscoring them by a lot. And then in the Vegas series, I mean, Montreal, they got overtime wins. They got even bigger wins than that. They just seem to outplay Vegas. Vegas was like trying so hard. They take like 40 shots a game. They could only get like one or two goals. So their scoring woes sort of came back from last season. And yeah, it's just like things like that that just have like, I guess, slowly helped Montreal get to the finals.
I guess it's like small things like, for example, you can't always stop a team from shooting, but you can make them take shots that are not as good as others. So as long as the other team is taking bad shots, you can be pretty confident that your goaltender is going to be able to stop it. And Carey Price can stop good shots. So
Yeah, I mean, there's like an advanced stat called like high danger chances. So they sort of prevented a lot of those. They sort of kept all the shots to the outside. So yeah, it was really tough for teams to get in between their defense and to try and get goals.
yeah, for sure. And I guess Tampa Bay, they have a really strong offense and a really strong defense. What are your thoughts on their run through the playoffs so far?
Yeah, we talked about the Florida series. It looked like back and forth at the beginning, but then Tampa Bay just sort of took off with it. Then in the Carolina series, Carolina just couldn't get any momentum going. Their only win against Tampa Bay was in overtime, and it was off of a sort of questionable penalty call. So, I mean, Tampa could have even swept that series. They were sort of like really playing well at that time. They came to play the Islanders, and the Islanders, with this whole defensive structure, um, they really frustrated Tampa Bay, especially at home when the Islanders were at home. Both the crowd and I guess just the way that they played, it was really frustrating for Tampa Bay. But ultimately, Tampa Bay was able to win their games at home for the most part. And then they were able to score goals when it mattered. The Islanders sort of ran into goal scoring trouble. Like, I mean, when you get shut out 2 out of the last 3 games, yeah, you're not putting yourself in a spot to be able to get wins. So, yeah, definitely Tampa Bay. They were able to score goals and they were also able to play defense, which is what helped them beat New York.
Yeah, and I guess what are some major differences that you kind of have seen between, I guess, two really good defensive teams in New York and Montreal?
Yeah, well, I guess we can just sort of use that as a way to just preview the series. I guess going against Montreal, this team actually can score off of their defensive plays. So with the New York Islanders, there were just nights where no matter how well they played defensively, they weren't able to score. But I haven't really seen that with Montreal at all in these playoffs. They can play defense and they can score off the rush. So Tampa Bay, they gotta just sort of be smart. They gotta cover both ends, and yeah, that's one thing they need to sort of look out for when they play Montreal.
Yeah, I guess the biggest question for Tampa Bay is they're going to need to figure out a way to increase their amount of high danger chances. Very few teams have been able to do this consistently against Montreal, and none of them have been able to beat them so far. So, what do you think they can do about that?
Yeah, Tampa's one of those teams that just knows how to generate offense. We saw them do it against New York. In Game 7, it was a shorthanded goal. Even they had a lot of chances. It's not like they didn't have high danger chances. It was just sort of a tight style of game, and that's the thing about Tampa Bay is they can sort of match up with Montreal in almost every way. And then they have even better scoring on top. Like I'd say Tampa Bay's goaltending is just as good as Montreal's, with Vasilevsky compared to Price. And then on defense, they have defenseman of the year from last year, Victor Hedman, or sorry, 2 years ago, Victor Hedman. And he's nominated this year. He might even win it this year. He was playoff MVP last year as well. Then they have guys up front, Kucherov, Stamkos, Braden Point, Palat, Gord scored tonight. I mean, they have guys that can score. I know Montreal, they're deep overall, but in terms of high end offensive talent, they just really don't stack up against Tampa. So their defense is really going to have to, I guess, step it up to really keep them in this series.
Yeah, the coach over at Montreal, uh, he's gonna be having some really long nights trying to figure out how to counter Tampa Bay's offense and counter Tampa Bay's defense.
Yeah, I think he also might be out 1 more week for COVID. So the assistants are going to have to do that. So they were able to get 2 wins there, the assistant coaches. So they're going to need to get, I think, maybe 2 more. There'll probably be 2 more games before the coach comes back. I don't know how many, but yeah, they're going to really have to hold off this Tampa Bay team. And yeah, I don't know. I guess in terms of getting into predictions for this series, I guess off the top of your head, could maybe you want to ballpark what you think about the series?
Um, I think that I guess against, for example, like teams like New York, I thought like New York was gonna put up a fight, but I didn't think it would go to 7 games, and it ended up going to 7 games. And like you said, Montreal is better in terms of they know how to turn their defense into offense compared to New York. They're both really physical defensive teams, and I guess that's been the style that seems to work in this playoff series. Have a really good goaltender, play a really defensive, physical style, try to um, make the opposing team take bad shots. um, try to figure out a way to outlast the other team. That seems to be what's working. So I think this is also going to be a 7 game series. Um, but on paper, Tampa Bay is a little bit deeper than Montreal. They have better offense. Their defense is arguably just as good as Montreal. So it's going to be kind of like the Vegas situation, but even worse. So it's going to be really tough to see how Montreal is going to pull this one off. But it'll be kind of crazy if they do.
Yeah. So, do you like Montreal in 7 or do you like Tampa Bay in 7?
I think I'd take Tampa Bay in 7.
Yeah. I guess just one thing to sort of add to what you said. I think experience is a big thing for Tampa Bay. The amount of runs they've gone on since 2015 when they went to the finals and they lost to Chicago. Then ever since then, they've been building their team. They finally got back to the finals in 2020 and they won it. So this core sort of knows how to go on multiple playoff runs. I mean, Kucherov did it when he was a rookie in 2015. And then last year, just being one of the main guys there. And then they've gone back again. So they know how to win. I think that's big. I feel like Vegas was a team that they've never won before. They don't know what it's like to win. So I think that didn't help them. Um, I mean, I wanted to say 7 games because Carey Price, obviously, but um, I think it might be 6. I don't want to say anything less than 6 because it could easily go to 7. I'll probably just say Tampa Bay in 6 with the possibility that it does go to 7. But if it goes to 7, I don't see Tampa Bay losing just because they'll be at home for that last game again, just like they were on Friday night. And we saw what happened. The Islanders just couldn't get anything done against this team. Tampa Bay is going to be really tough to beat at home in this series.
Yeah, it's going to be even harder to invade Tampa Bay than the Fortress.
Yeah, and I mean Montreal, they got a pretty a loud crowd there and passionate fans, so they're gonna really take advantage of their home ice as well. So definitely, I guess if you're looking to sort of wager on the series, you definitely want to take into account home ice advantage when you're looking at each game. Um, I guess we can just jump right into the preview for Monday's game from here. Um, I guess just looking at game one, Tampa Bay would be a good place to start because I think Montreal, they might get like game one jitters. They've never been to the finals. Trust me, it happens. Tampa Bay, they're sort of a team that's, they've been there before. They know what to do. They're going to be at home as well. Um, yeah, I think Tampa Bay should be a safe team to go with in game one. And then I think maybe game two, it's going to be a little bit closer. I think Montreal will definitely put up more of a fight and they might even have a chance of taking game two. But I think with game one, I'm going to lean with Tampa.
Yeah, it looks like the stats they they do favor Tampa Bay quite a bit, but it does look like Montreal has a chance. It looks like penalty kill percentage, Montreal has an advantage over that. So, what do you think penalties and power play is going to kind of affect the series?
Yeah, Tampa Bay's power plays clicking at like what, 35%, close to 40%. So they're literally scoring like 2 out of every 5 power plays. If they're getting 3 or 4 power plays a game, they're at least going to score 1 or 2 goals on you. So in games that are already low scoring as it is, Montreal just can't take penalties. I know their penalty kill has been so good. Vegas wasn't able to score on the power play. I don't even think they scored all series. That's how good Montreal was. But I wouldn't test Tampa Bay's power play. That's one thing for sure, especially since Kucherov definitely looked pretty healthy in game 7 on Friday. So he'll definitely be there on the power play, making good plays as always. And yeah, you don't want to test that power play.
Yeah, I know like Montreal is really good at physical defense, but they're gonna want to try to keep their defense a little bit cleaner in this series.
Yeah, any improvements, if any, they're going to have to do. They're definitely going to have to come prepared for, I guess, more offense because that's pretty much what Tampa does. They just bring, if they can score 8 goals on a defensive team like New York Islanders, I mean, Montreal has to be prepared coming into the series.
I'm not quite sure how you prepare for something like that, though. It's like it's like watching like an avalanche happening or something.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where if you let Tampa Bay get going and they start feeling themselves, and getting good chances, yeah, they can pretty much just get all the breaks. And there's really nothing you can do at that point. So you pretty much got to limit as many chances as you can.
Yeah, I guess this is going to be like kind of like as big a mental battle as anything else because once you see an offense like that, you have the tendency of thinking like, what am I supposed to do against that?
Yeah, I think they can sort of follow New York's recipe, except for that one game. New York did play pretty well defensively most of the games, like allowing maybe like 3 goals or less, 2 goals or less, that kind of thing. So they really were able to hold Tampa Bay for the most part. So definitely Montreal can sort of take those things into mind. Okay, what kind of coverage should we play? That kind of thing. And if they get fast break opportunities on offense, Montreal, it is going to be tougher for them to score because of how good Vasilevsky's been the past few years. He's pretty much the younger version of Carey Price at this point. So yeah, it's going to be a tough task for both sides to be able to score goals in this series.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be kind of a more low scoring series overall. It's probably going to look more like the hockey that I guess most people are used to watching from like even like 5 years ago compared to now. I remember at the beginning of the series, I was kind of shocked because there are so many like 4 point games. I'm only used to 4 point games as being like a high scoring game, not 4 point games as average.
I think there was a Tampa Bay against Florida game that was like 7-6. I think that was game one or something. It was crazy. Tampa won like 7-6. And I'm like, when do you see 13 goals in a playoff game? Like it was actually crazy. But yeah, you're right. Expect like a 2-1 game, 3-1 game, 3-2 game at the most. I think these two teams should play pretty well defensively, I think.
Yeah, I guess with the Florida game, it was kind of Florida has a really good offense. Their defense isn't quite as good as Montreal, so it just became um I guess like kind of like a slugfest, but in the opposite direction.
Yeah, Florida, they're definitely improving as a team. They had some defensive injuries as well, so they definitely they have maybe a couple seasons away from really being a contender, hopefully. But yeah, Montreal is not going to go on these runs all the time. We haven't seen a finals run since 1993 for them, so yeah, they really have to take advantage of it. It is going to be tough. I know last time they won the cup, they beat Wayne Gretzky. So I mean, you never know, right? So I guess we got to see how the series plays out.
I guess Montreal, they're every time like a potential dynasty team comes out, Montreal tries to go out and kill the dynasty.
Yeah, so let's see what happens. Let's see. I don't think a team has won back-to-back Stanley Cup since Pittsburgh did. I think it was 2016 and 2017. So yeah, there hasn't been a dominant team since them. So let's see if Tampa Bay can do that. Or on the flip side, let's see what Montreal can do.
Yeah, for sure. The crazy part about Tampa Bay is like even if they don't win this year, we might end up seeing them in the finals next year.
Yeah, there's not a lot of teams in the East that can really stack up to them. Yeah, some teams are definitely going to have to do a lot of improvement for that to happen. I know Montreal will be back in the East next year because there will be conferences and inter conference play as well. So this double Eastern team final is pretty rare because we probably won't see this starting next season.
Yeah, I think next season will probably be easier to tell I guess how good a team really is in comparison to the entire league. This year was kind of tough. We just had to kind of go on who is the best in their division, but it'll probably be closer to just regular hockey next season.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you on those points. Yeah, we didn't get to see teams really battle it out because when if you're winning in your own division, that can give you a boost, and if you're losing in your own division, you don't have a chance of getting wins anywhere else. So it's just really tough overall. So yeah, interconference play is very important.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess in regards to the finals again, if you're a fan of any of these teams, you know what to do. Get a ticket if you can. Try to show up and give your support.
Yeah, Tampa Bay, I think they're pretty much at full capacity at this point. Montreal is probably going to be between 3 and 5,000. Who knows whether they might add more, but I know outside there were like 15,000. So, I mean, yeah, don't get arrested. I think 15 people were arrested on Thursday night. Some police cars were flipped over and stuff. So, Montreal fans, just please stay classy. You have a good team this year. Don't ruin it for that team. Okay, just yeah, just cheer for your team, but don't do all that extracurricular stuff.
Yeah, just keep it to cheering so loud that they can hear you inside the arena.
Yeah, or if it cheers so loud that they can hear you all the way back in Tampa. So, yeah, but yeah, it's definitely gonna be a good series. Definitely a must watch. Game one's on Monday, like we said. So, like we said, we are favoring Tampa slightly just because of experience and being at home for game one. But we'll definitely see what happens there.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess we've reached the end of this installment of Everything NHL. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered anything. I think the final is going to be great. Can't wait to watch.
Yeah, for sure. So if you liked listening to our podcast, give us a follow on Spotify. We're also on Apple Music and Google Podcasts. If you enjoyed watching our videos on YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Give us a review, give us a like. Let us know about your thoughts on how the playoffs have been going in the NHL. We'd also like to know about your thoughts on both what happened in round three and what do you think is going to happen in the Stanley Cup Finals. If you need some picks, you can follow us at Fan Podcast on both Twitter and Instagram. And we'll probably be back next week to take a look at the finals.
Yeah, for sure.